Hey, what's up you guys? We are going to take you through the 6 steps to get you started on your lifting journey.
Let's dive into step 1. Step 1 is learning the basics about lifting. Where I would start is just getting familiar with your body, like learning about certain muscle groups, simple muscle actions. Getting familiar with where these muscles are can help you with mind-muscle connection. And you can start by Googling basic anatomy, looking up YouTube videos, Instagram videos, TikTok videos as well. There are pages that are dedicated to how muscles work and the anatomy, and all you need to know for now is just the basics, mostly the superficial muscles, and learning about how the muscles that surround a particular region interact with each other. Now it's time to learn about the basics of exercising. To count your exercises during a session, the first thing you need to know is what a rep is. And a rep is just the number of times you perform an exercise movement in one set. And a set is a group of consecutive repetitions. So let's say if I did 5 push-ups, then I rested 30 seconds and then did another 5 push-ups. Well, then I did 2 sets of 5 reps. Generally, you do an X amount of reps and then you rest, and then you would do your next set. The most basic exercise variable you could know is sets and reps, and we'll get into the other variables later in this video. And the next thing we want to learn about before starting exercises is the importance of warming up. So generally, we would like to warm up before we start exercising to get our body prepared for those exercises. So warming up will help loosen up those muscles and joints, get your metabolism revved up, and just help you get prepared for those movements. And research has shown that warming up reduces the risk of injury. And you generally want to warm up the areas that you're going to work, right? So if I'm performing a bench press, I'm not going to do a calf stretch or something like that. Warm-ups are typically specific to the movements that you're going to perform, so you want to warm up those muscles that are going to be involved. If you're going to do a full body workout, then you do a full body warm-up. And now let's get into step 2.
Step 2 is to practice from home. The goal of this is that you can get comfortable within the comforts of your own home so that you can really focus on things like your form and your technique. Now, we've actually created a training program. It's a 2-day program that you can follow so that you have full structure and something to commit yourself to. For the program, we are going to start with a warm-up. There are going to be 3 exercises: the cat-cow, Y and W raises, and the third and final movement, 90-90s. These 3 movements are going to target different areas of our body, wake up and warm up different areas of our body. So the first training day of this routine is going to start with overhead squats. And then we're going to move on to push-ups as our second movement. Our third movement is going to be those dumbbell deadlifts. And the fourth movement is going to be our glute bridges. This is going to be a full body day, but it's going to target different fundamental movements that we need in our training routine. Now we're going to move on to the second day. The second day is going to start off with goblet squats with dumbbells. Then we're going to move into our dumbbell chest presses. Our third movement is going to be our standing overhead shoulder presses. And our fourth movement is going to be dumbbell rows. We are going to finish with dead bugs. Over the next 1 to 4 weeks, get comfortable with practicing these movements, and this includes your form, your technique, with mind-muscle connection, to really make sure that you're ready and comfortable to step into the gym. A lot of these movements, for example, a squat will feel a lot like a leg press. And so these are machines that of course you won't be able to use from your own home, but you will know how to properly use them with a proper form because they mimic these fundamental movements. Once you are comfortable from home within those 1 to 4 weeks, it's time to move on to step 3. Step 3 is finding your gym. The first thing that you'll want to consider when you are looking for a gym membership is what kind of gym environment do you want to be in? For example, do you want an all-women gym? Do you want a specialty gym like a powerlifting gym? Do you want a Planet Fitness marketed for beginners? Do you want something that is more old school, which has like all the metal plates, old grungy vibe? Another way is by asking friends, acquaintances, or family members, hey, what gym do you guys go to? And maybe you can find accountability buddies that way as well. Now, before actually signing up for a gym, I would also recommend going and seeing it in person. Go get a tour, go get a feel of the environment, do a workout there, because when you sign up for a membership, it is oftentimes contracted for a year. When you are searching for gyms, you can go to Google and type in your location and then type in if you're looking for a specialty gym. So for example, if you're looking for a powerlifting gym, you can go to Google, type in San Diego powerlifting gyms and see what comes up. Then you can go to their website and you can get a better feel of, okay, does their gym look good? I'm gonna use some examples of gyms. One of the gyms that I used to train at, Convoy, and I'll use a couple other examples of some other popular gyms out here, but I'll just kind of show, because each gym does have a different environment, and that environment can play, you know, a massive role in whether you show up, whether you stay consistent, and if you sign up to a gym where you have friends and coworkers that also go, you can have accountability. So all of those things play, you know, they play a big role in whether you stay consistent, and it's important to stay consistent, especially these first 3 months to a year, because that's when you're really building those solid habits. So you really want to make sure you're signing up to a place that it's really easy to get yourself to. Once you've found your gym, you've signed up, you are ready to move on to step 4.
Step 4 is creating or finding a program that makes sense for you. But you want to make sure that this program is based off of your goals, needs, and abilities. Let's say, you know, for your goals, you want to make sure that the exercise selection and the exercise variables that you choose reflect your goals. If your goal is to like build muscle, you're gonna probably want to do some hypertrophy training. If your goal is to be more athletic, you might add plyometric training and, you know, do so in a structured way. But you also want to make sure that you're putting your needs in there. So let's say if you're a power lifter and you want to squat heavy, you're compensating in your squat because you have tight ankles. Well, then you want to make sure you address those needs in your program to help you along with your goal. Also, you want to make sure that it reflects your abilities as well. You know, when you're creating a program, you want to make sure that you take into account what you do on a daily basis, your habits, your work, your recovery throughout the week, any other stress factors, internal and external. You want to think of all of these little components that may affect your training routine. So earlier on in this video, we spoke about the exercise variables, sets and reps. Now there's more exercise variables that go into creating a program, and I'm gonna go over some of the important ones. So the next exercise variable I want to mention is rest periods, and it's the amount of time you rest between sets. Generally, it's recommended for endurance 30 to 90 seconds, and then for hypertrophy and strength 2 to 6 minutes is recommended. But it's really best to just go when you're ready, when you feel mostly recuperated, because when you do each set, after the first set, you're gonna have some fatigue. So we want to make sure that we're rested enough so that we can get more stimulation in the next set. But you don't want to rest too long that you start to get cold. And people are known to program less rest so that they make an exercise more challenging. And the next exercise variable I want to mention is frequency, and that's just how often you train a particular movement or muscle group. If you're just starting out, trying to get a habit of just even doing it one time per week can be beneficial, and then over time you build that habit, and then you slowly add another day. And frequency can be adjusted based off of your priorities in your program. If you're trying to grow bigger lats, you want to make sure you're getting enough volume for the week. You want to make sure that you're getting enough recovery, so that's where the frequency comes into play. And another training variable that can affect how you recover throughout the week is volume. And volume is just the amount of mechanical work done during a rep, set, exercise session, week, or any other measurement of training time. And it's usually calculated by multiplying the amount of sets times the amount of reps times the weight. And higher volumes are usually associated with hypertrophy, muscle building, and lower volumes are usually associated with strength and powerlifting. So for example, let's say if my focus was mainly centered around strength training, then in my program, I'm probably choosing weights that are relatively challenging and that I can't do for like 15, 20 reps. It's gonna be a weight that I can do for like a few reps that's pretty challenging and will get me fatigued in a few reps. So that's usually associated with lower volume, because you're not gonna be doing a ton of reps if your main focus is around strength. And you wanna also make sure that since it's more taxing on your body, since you're lifting heavier weights, that the volume is kept low so you're able to recover. And if my focus was more centered around building muscle, hypertrophy, then I'm going to use moderate to like heavy-ish weights, and therefore I'm going to do higher volume, working with a little bit higher reps, like 6 to 12 reps. And so my volume is matching my goals. Trying to figure out how hard you want an exercise to be in a given exercise session or throughout the week, throughout the month, is another thing you want to consider. So that would be called the intensity. And so you have absolute intensity, which is just the overall weight. So for example, if you did a 315 squat on one day and then you did a 225 squat on another day, well, the absolute intensity of the 315 day was higher than the 225 because it's just all about the overall weight. And then you have relative intensity, which is just the proximity to failure in a given set. So for example, let's say that 315 you squatted for an easy 6 reps, but that 225 you squatted for 15 reps. Towards the end of that set, felt a lot harder than what 315 for 6 did. So that's relative intensity. And that brings me on to learning what RPEs and RIRs are. What RPEs are is just rate of perceived exertion, and it's on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being the hardest. 10 is you have no more reps left in the tank. 9 is you have maybe 1 more rep left in the tank. And then 8 is about 2 more reps left in the tank. And now as a beginner, gauging RPs can be a little tricky because a lot of times beginners don't know what they're capable of. But over time, as you begin to learn your strengths, learn what you're capable of, learn what it feels like to actually be close to failure. So let's say if I had some barbell bench press for, RPE 8, that can be dependent on how I feel that day. That can be dependent on how much rest I got, how well I warmed up, how sharp my mind is. And the last variable I want to talk about is the tempo. The tempo is just the speed at which you perform each rep. The speed can be broken down into 3 phases. Eccentric phase, which is the lowering portion where the muscle elongates. You could think of like during a bench press, it'll be the lowering phase, and the isometric phase, which is the pause. There's no muscle movement during that phase, and you can think of that as the pause at the bottom of a bench press where the bar is resting on your chest. And then the concentric phase, the contraction, that's when the bar is on its way up. Slow tempos can increase time under tension, which is associated with promoting muscle growth, while faster tempos are usually used for speed and power development. Essentially, we want to tweak these exercise variables in our program to help us progress over time. If we're not tweaking these variables, then we're going to stay stagnant, and challenging our bodies over time is known as progressive overload. You want to gradually increase the weight, reps, or intensity of your workouts to promote strength and muscle growth. And you don't have to make an exercise harder every single workout. In fact, that's what you don't want to do. Our body takes time to adapt to stimulus, and we don't want to do too much too soon. Ramping up volume or weight or intensity way too soon, and our body's not even prepared for that. Going too fast, too soon, you can end up with injuries. We're in it for the long haul. Listen to your body and progress in a strategic manner, taking into account your recovery and how well you're responding to the stimulus. So now that you learned about what exercise variables go into creating a program, you want to start learning about your individual strength and wellness needs. So you want to start looking at things like your habits, hobbies, lifestyle, basically what you do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. For example, if you have a sitting job, then you probably want to include things in your program that focus on keeping your hips mobile. And when you're programming, you want to make sure that the movements that you're doing, you stick with it long enough for your body to adapt to that stimulus. So it's recommended that you make the program at least 8 to 12 weeks to see some change. And it should be focused on progressive overload around those movements. And of course, besides the training variables, you want to make sure that you're eating for your goals. You want to make sure you're getting enough energy, you're getting enough carbs, enough protein, healthy fats into your diet to help you reach your goals. And with that said, now it's time for step 5.
Gym anxiety is one of the biggest things that holds people back from going to the gym. Recognize that it's okay to be uncomfortable when you're first getting started. Almost everyone is going to feel uncomfortable to some degree. Following those previous steps will allow you to come into the gym with more confidence just because you have more knowledge, you're more informed on what it is you're supposed to be doing. But beyond that, there's more that you can do to really ensure that you're comfortable. So the first thing that will really help you when you're first getting started is getting a better idea of what the gym layout looks like. So for example, every gym is going to have a slightly different layout. Most of the treadmills will be together at most gyms. If it's organized well, they'll have the upper body equipment and machines by each other. They'll have the lower body machines by each other, and then they'll have dumbbells and cables. But where they're placed in the gym might be different from gym to gym. So oftentimes you can go to the website and get a virtual tour. I would recommend doing that and looking at your program and finding where all of the equipment that you need is in advance, so that way when you get to the gym, if there's a lot of people, if you kind of start to panic like I used to in my head, you can kind of remember, okay, here's where I'm going first, here's where I'm going second, and it creates an exact route for you to follow so you don't get caught up in your thoughts and anxieties about what's going on around you. The next thing that you'll want to do if you have gym anxiety is find places that you feel comfortable in the gym where you can always come back to if the gym is packed, if all of the equipment that you need is taken, or if you just need to recollect your thoughts because you're getting overwhelmed. So typically, comfortable places for most people in the gym are going to be behind the treadmills or on the treadmills. If there is a section of your gym that has an overlook area, that's also a really good place for you to kind of scout out what is available. If you need to change up your movements and exercises because it's packed, you can also just kind of go to the corners of the gym, these stretch areas of the gym, and those two things will seriously help a ton when you start to get overwhelmed. It's normal again to feel anxiety, to feel anxious when you're first getting started. So those are the things that will really help you to ease yourself in and not feel overwhelmed. Nobody really is judging you, and if people are judging you, they're judging a lot of people, because people are getting started at the gym all of the time because it is a really powerful way to change your life. And if people are judging you for that, that's a them problem, not a you problem. So I know that we all, and I used to as well, and still sometimes do have fears of judgment. But at the end of the day, if people are going to judge you for trying to improve your life, that is on them. Sorry about it. I'm gonna improve my life. If you have a problem with it, that's on you. And genuinely, like, I know it's hard to feel that way, but remind yourself that this is for me. I don't care about weirdos who are gonna judge me. And most people truly, truly, truly are not judging you. And if you follow those simple tips, it will really help with your gym anxiety. Now let's move on to step 6. Now all that's left is finding ways for you to stay consistent. Once you've made it to step 6, it's really about following through, keeping the habit, and having fun with it, because hopefully this should be a fun journey for you. The biggest tip to staying consistent is really getting down to the root of your why, the reason why you're doing this, beyond just the fat loss, beyond just the building muscle, beyond just the looking like a baddie and feeling like a baddie. Like, really, what does this mean to you? What does this mean for you? How is this going to improve your life? And why is this going to be something that you want to maintain? Because when you do that, it's going to really keep you consistent, even on those low days. And when you start to have those low days, think about your why. Think about who you are and why you're showing up for yourself. And that's going to push you through beyond those surface level goals. The second tip that I really think will help a lot of people is letting yourself continue on with that beginner mindset. Even as you get better and you improve with movements, continue to hold this space for learning and this space for failing, because that is a normal and will be a normal part of your process and progress and journey. and it's not something to be discouraged by. And so the way you can avoid this is by having fun, allowing yourself to just really enjoy being new at things and learning new things. And this will also help you to hopefully relieve that stress and idea that you have to be perfect at everything. And my last piece of advice is to also continue learning about different styles of training and lifting. Oftentimes, a lot of people will go through different cycles of training, of strength, of hypertrophy, of calisthenics, of higher reps. You, on Instagram and social media, you will oftentimes see a lot of athletes like bodybuilders and powerlifters who are really zeroing in on one of those things, like powerlifters zeroing in on maximal and submaximal strength. It's okay to play around with different styles of training. In fact, it's actually pretty beneficial to do that, and know that you don't have to lift in one specific style all of the time. That said, you should follow some sort of program that keeps you consistent for progressive overload, because nonetheless, all of the things that you learned from the first couple of steps are going to hold true. You need to have that progressive overload. You need to follow some sort of routine in order to do this safely and make progress that is visible for you, and that progress will be motivating and also help with that consistency along the way. This is where your lifting journey really begins. Don't put pressure on yourself to be perfect. You've got this. This is supposed to be fun, so let yourself have fun. And that is it for step 6. All right, friends, stay strong, and we'll see you in the next video.